Welcome back to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio, hosted by Patrick Morrissey, Chief Marketing Officer at Altify. Revenue Optimization Radio is brought to you by Altify, the sales transformation company. We believe the only way to unlock sustained growth is to deliver predictable revenue. Delivering insights, thought leadership, and the best practice on how to improve sales velocity. From the one man, maybe the only man who knows how to do all of that, at least this morning, Patrick Morrissey. Hey, Patrick.
Good morning, good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to another edition of Revenue Optimization Radio. Today, we're going to get into a topic that I think is either something that's critically important for a lot of people, or for many other revenue leaders, both on the sales and the marketing side, it can potentially be the bane of your existence, which is one word: content. The keys to the castle for anyone in marketing thinking about customer acquisition is, how do I have great content that informs and educates? And for sales and sales leaders, salespeople on the front lines, it's what's going to help my customer, what's going to help my prospect. Sounds great on paper. It's much harder to produce in real life. And thankfully, we've got somebody who's lived in the intersection of both, sales and marketing leadership and putting together content programs that help people sell. And I'm pleased to welcome to Revenue Optimization Radio, Stacy Crinks, the CEO of the Content Bureau. Stacy, welcome.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me.
So I could say a lot of great things about you, and we know each other personally, and you're a great mom, you're a seasoned executive, and you're also an advisor to a lot of people who are trying to solve what I would loosely define as the content problem. That means different things for different companies, different scales of growth. But before we get into the details of that, give us a little perspective on you, your background, and the Content Bureau.
Yes, well, I'm excited to say, are celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. And we are a producer of high-quality marketing content for B2B tech and financial services clients. I would say our typical customer is someone who needs to produce a large volume of high-quality content year-round. And it's usually not corporate marketing. So we're kind of down in the weeds with industry marketing and product marketing. So we're really comfy with marketing and product marketing. That's our target customer.
So, and you recently were recognized, we were talking about this in terms of, it's one thing for me or others to say you do great content, but there's some rankings out in the world that actually suggest you and your squad at the Content Bureau are world class at this.
That is so exciting. Yes, we were just ranked number 3 on Clutch.com, which is a rankings website for professional services firms, out of almost 10,000 content marketing agencies. We were really pleased. All of the rankings are determined by independent customer reviews. So those rankings have come straight from our customers who are happy with the work we're doing for them. And that is so exciting. And it's working because we just landed our first huge client from Clutch. They found us on the site. So that was exciting too. And for that company, just as a typical project, we are creating 27 account-based marketing white papers in 3 months. And that is kind of a typical engagement for us. So large volume of high-quality content, B2B tech and financial services. 27 account-based marketing white papers in 3 months. You got it.
That is not child's play. So let's talk about content. Let's zoom out to 50,000 feet for a second, because the world of highly empowered consumers, particularly in the B2B world, all of us are consumers, and a lot of us are purchasing on behalf of companies. And the statistics would say that you may be as much as 70 to 80% through a purchase cycle before you ever interact with a salesperson, which puts the onus on your content and on all of your physical and digital properties, as well as the example you just used. Customer references are paramount. When I step back for a second and look at the broad vendor landscape of content and the stuff that floods my inbox, my conclusion is a lot of that content sucks. So as somebody who's lived in this for 20 years, trying to get to what good looks like and is on the podium against 10,000 people on the planet doing this as their subject matter expertise, give me your perspective. Why is that? And what's the current state of play around content? Or maybe as importantly, why is so much of it so much less than good?
Yeah, there's so much bad content out there. You're absolutely right. And I think bad content falls into a couple of categories. One, it is just terrible quality. So maybe that's because your SEO expert said, hey, we need a bunch of articles that are packed with these terms. Go. And it's not written for humans, or it's just bad quality. Honestly, a whole bunch of bad content is terrible for your brand. I'm sure that's not rocket science, but it's so much better to have no content than bad content. The other type of bad content.
So that's interesting. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's really interesting because I think the example you just described and the way you summarized it is almost the opposite of the way most of the world thinks. I'd rather have something than nothing. And even for just the example you used, for the last 20 years, everybody's been vomiting things onto the internet, hoping that it's going to be indexed by Google.
It's terrible.
And you're saying fundamentally the opposite is true.
Yeah. I mean, we are hearing across the board that customers are sick of bad content. They're sick of any content that's not really targeted to them and highly useful. So account-based marketing is really improving the quality of content, in my opinion, because we're having to get really targeted, really smart, including specific use cases for certain target accounts. I mean, we're getting really down into the weeds, but that's good quality content. And then I would say too, we have to make sure that our content is not old. And a lot of companies that we work with are huge global corporations that are localizing white papers or other thought leadership content into a bunch of different languages. It's so hard to keep track of what's out there and what's current. And it's kind of like Marie Kondo, the magical tidying up. If it doesn't spark joy, get rid of it. It's very similar in content. It should be good. It should be on brand. It should be your current messaging, and it should be beautiful in your current template. And if it's not, you either need to refresh it or you need to get rid of it.
So it should literally spark joy.
It should spark. I say that your content should spark joy. To your point, maybe we don't want no content. No content is pretty terrible, but some small amount of high quality content is going to be much better for your brand than a whole lot of very average or old content would be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And that actually, you hit on, I think, some of the foundational elements. But when I think about even more specifically, not just what's good for your brand, but what helps you sell, when you think about that frame around the question and you apply it to content and building a content campaign and great execution, what does that look like?
So the top marketing asset that we have been producing for 20 years is case studies. And case studies sell because everybody loves a story, and they especially love a story that talks about their competitor and how their competitor is killing it out there. And case studies are one of the most highly effective marketing assets produced. And interestingly, I think there's sort of a formulaic problem, solution, there's a happy ending. I'm hearing from my customers, my more innovative customers, that they want more reality. One customer actually said to me recently, I want my case studies to sound like reality TV. They need to have some problems. I want to hear how people got around that problem. Give me all the info, make it real. And then that gives me the content that I need, the information I need so that I can make the right decision. So people kind of hate that formulaic, don't sell to me.
Right.
People don't like that. They want facts, and they want, I would say, they like a story, but it should be a real story. It shouldn't always be wrapped up with a beautiful bow on top.
Just to double click on that for a second, then if you're talking about a real story and ideally you want to have protagonist and antagonist and big events and the world is changing and everyone lives happily ever after, how much input do you and the team need to actually bring that to life instead of the generic industry problem solution, buy a lot of our stuff, thank you, mahalo, kind of a formulaic, one pager?
Yeah, I think the key is to be specific about what we're trying to achieve in the case study. So I recommend often that customers develop what I call a case study matrix. So they are extremely thoughtful about who they're going to interview for case studies. It should be representative of your perfect target new accounts. It should cover all the industries that you're trying to target with your highest margin products. And you put together this matrix, you figure out where the gaps are, and then you go after those customers that are going to give you the best stories that are going to sell future work for you. And in doing that, if our customer has done a good job of identifying the right customers for us to interview, all you have to do is put us on the phone with that person and we will do the rest. And I think the best case studies are the ones where you can really dig and get some great color on why they made this decision to purchase your product, how they're using it, and then as many metrics as we can get. What did you get after you use this? Or if it's a new customer, if you're in beta or they haven't seen results yet, what results are you expecting to get?
Right.
So we're really probing always for those stories and for those metrics that make the story stick in people's minds.
Yeah, well, and I think that last point you hit on is also a good tip and a take home too. I've found good success in getting people early on before they've deployed, where they're still very much in the art of the possible and they know what they're trying to do. And that's fundamentally, I think, part of the magic of case studies is I can't be the only one trying to solve this problem. How do I think about it? And you assume that if we've done business or what's going to come out of this is, some goodness after the fact. But just understanding the framework and the decision criteria, the strategy and the vision of where they want to go is oftentimes as powerful as 17% improvement in revenue.
Absolutely. It's always good to ask, why did you choose this company? How did you even decide that you wanted this product? What are you planning to do with it? Who's using it? What is the early feedback? It's really never too early to interview customers. And you know what? Worst case scenario, you don't turn it into a case study, but you get really valuable insights into what your customer's doing.
So put that together for me in terms of a campaign then, because you've talked about, I still am blown away, that's the heavy lifting required to do 27 ABM white papers in a quarter, and then having not just case studies, but a matrix around what are you trying to sell and who you're trying to sell to, and how does that fit in more strategically. When you think about that in terms of trying to package a variety of assets, what do you see your customers and your clients investing in now?
Across the board in tech, everybody is doing content marketing, which is this concept of having content always available for your prospects to acquire whenever they want to get into it. So, for example, you should think about all of the different target audiences you are marketing to, and then make sure that you have content already on the site that answers all of their key questions. And it should be in a lot of different formats. So you're going to want some thought leadership, top of funnel, white papers and blog posts and ebooks. You're going to want some case studies. You're going to want probably a couple of infographics that walk people through in a visual sense how they would interact with the product. You might want lower funnel FAQs, how-tos, demos, putting all of that together for a specific persona, and then repeating that for as many personas as you have that are going to be looking for content on your site. Everyone is aiming for that with, I would say, some success. When we produce content for content marketing campaigns, we often start by producing one core asset, a foundational piece like a white paper. And then we produce all of the other assets that will draw eyeballs to that piece. So your emails, your social copy, the blog post that links to the long form piece, we do that afterward. So I would say a typical campaign these days involves some foundational asset and then a bunch of supporting content. And it really does make sense to produce it all at the same time. You don't want your social person having to read the white paper and try to 3 weeks later come up with insights about it and write some tweets. 100%.
Although there's unintentional comedic value in having that happen and having the social person replay back to the product marketer, the content expert, and what she actually wrote about and why it's important. I mean, come on. It's good fun.
Yeah, good fun. Maybe not super effective.
No, not really super effective at all. Going back to that element of a foundational piece, is the case study the best foundational piece? Or if I'm thinking about trying to architect a content strategy that's going to help me drive eyeballs and help me drive engagement, is there a base case in terms of if I walked into your office and said, hey, I've got these assets, I want to tell these stories, what are the first couple pieces I should start with and why?
Well, your website needs to be amazing. It doesn't have to be huge, but it needs to be amazing. And I would say if you haven't done messaging, that is the most important foundational piece of all, because messaging that is approved by all of the stakeholders that matter at your company is the single most important foundational piece. You can, for example, write some copy blocks, short, medium, and long, that can be pulled out and used everywhere. So internally, everyone's speaking the same language about your value proposition, even what your products do for customers. And then you can pull copy blocks out and use them directly in emails. You can put it in a pitch deck. It's really important for the website to use the same exact language that your salespeople are using.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that's the most important building block. And then it's always good to have a couple of foundational white papers on the key business problem that your solution addresses.
Got it. That's a good place to press pause for a second and pay the bills. And then we'll be right back with Stacy Crinks, the CEO of the Content Bureau. And welcome back, everyone. Today, we are talking about the realities and what good looks like in architecting content that sells. And I'm joined by Stacy Crinks, the CEO of the Content Bureau. And Stacy, you were just talking about, when we paused for a second for a break, some focus on foundational assets. And one of the things that you keyed in on was the importance of white papers. And I got to tell you, I'm a little bit of mixed minds about this, because in my experience, there are certain audiences, and particularly when I think about the world of technology, or if I think about security and so on, there are certain topics that you want to go deep. And to me, a white paper is deep, or can be pretty deep. Maybe it doesn't have to be. So you feel free to disabuse me of my bias here. But the other reality is I see a lot of people, and maybe it's because a lot of white papers aren't that great, they spend a lot of cycles producing a really big white paper that never gets read. Nobody gets off the first couple pages. Nobody has time for it. So give me the use case of where you have seen white papers be really effective, and maybe give me the sketch of what does a white paper look like in the modern world we all live in, where everyone's attention starved and running a million miles an hour.
Yeah, that's a great question. White papers have gotten a lot shorter. So when we first founded the agency, I would say there were a lot of 7 to 9, 8 to 12 page white papers. And today, truly, a 3-page white paper is awesome. And it's about as much as you're going to get people to read, unless, to your earlier point, it is really technical and more instructional in nature. If it's a thought leadership piece, you don't need 8 pages. So I would say white papers are still really useful for top of funnel. So getting people to think about the kinds of business problems that would lead to them needing your solution.
Right.
For example, we're working with a company now that's in robotic process automation. So this is a new category of analytics. It is highly innovative, and that term is not well known. So we are writing white papers talking about what RPA is and how it can be used in a bunch of different industries. And that is a great place for a white paper.
Exactly. Help me understand. Here's something new. Help me educate on what the new is, why the category is important, and what it means for me in my industry.
Exactly.
And do it in a way that's consumable and makes me want more, not puts me to sleep.
Totally. And sometimes the more practical, let's walk through a typical case, or you can have white papers that are peppered with vignettes and customer stories and data and charts, and that can be really great too. White papers can be really awesome and sexy. They really can.
You may be the first person I've talked to in a long time who thinks white papers are sexy.
You know what? Call me crazy, but I love white papers. I think there's still a use for them. I mean, I would say an ebook too. An ebook is a white paper turned in horizontal format and has a lot less copy. We laugh about that. But truly, ebooks are the boiled down essence of thought leadership with a lot more pretty graphics and layout. It's another great way of sharing thought leadership in a more visually exciting way. And sometimes just labeling something ebook, and I'm being a little facetious here, but it's just a little more modern.
Well, it is a little bit more modern. And again, I think that works for it and works against it. Insofar, when I say it, I mean ebook, because again, I'm like you, like all of us, are inundated with 79 different reps who are trying to sell us something, saying, check out my ebook on 79 ways to do blah, 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 or be better on the gram, or sell something, or do this or do that. I'm like, I'm not going to read 79 pages of anything. I don't care about Instagram. That's not where my audiences are driving revenue. So is there anything that you would prescribe, again, from the department of what does good look like. Give me the quick 60 seconds on what is a great ebook.
So first of all, I want to address your point. You might never read white papers. You might be someone who loves to watch videos. You can convey the same thought leadership content in video format. In fact, this is kind of off topic, but we did an awesome project for a very innovative marketer at SAP who wanted non-slick video. So she wanted to be standing in front of a whiteboard diagramming, and it should look like it was just coming naturally. It was all scripted. We even helped her draw out the visuals that she was going to be presenting and get those really baked. And then she just did these kind of off-the-cuff, handheld camera-looking videos because she was getting much better engagement with that type of content than white papers or even really slick, professionally produced looking video. And ironically, it doesn't cost a whole lot less to do non-slick than it does to do gorgeous and slick, but it has a different level of engagement. I mean, I think we are in this sort of Instagram versus Snapchat generation. So we have Instagram is super slick and gorgeous, and then we have Snapchat's kind of the real you. I think content, we also need to be aware that some people are going to go for the slick and they're going to be attracted to that, the beautiful layout, the perfect grammar. And other people, I mean, we're talking the developers, do not give me slick. That would be such a turnoff. Young people, like the younger customers, they don't want to see that stuff. They want, give me the real stuff. It should be on Medium. It shouldn't be on LinkedIn. We have to have, as part of our content marketing programs, a very broad set of assets in different formats because people consume content really differently.
Is that something that you actually help clients decode what types of content or what's the frame of not just the actual deliverable itself, but how polished, how much there should there be for which audiences, and then how to actually measure what that engagement looks like?
So interestingly, we do not do that. That would be a content strategy resource that would help. We are firmly on the content execution side, but I love those people. And the more content strategy we are given, and often that's handled in-house by our clients because they are big, and that should be, I would argue, really core to what they do as a marketing team. So that's a good function to keep in-house is content strategy. The more information about that our clients give us, the better we can put together a list of assets that would meet the needs of the target customers.
100%. So we've covered a lot of ground here. I'm curious to get your perspective in terms of what advice do you give to your clients, or particularly for a new client who's trying to, because you're doing business in financial services, in insurance, technology across a variety of sectors and segments. When I'm trying to have a level set in terms of trying to build a really great content program that's going to help my team sell, what would be a couple of the foundational elements you would point me and the team to say, you got to have this stuff nailed to get those foundational pieces in place that are going to allow you to build a content library that's really going to help drive engagement and awareness and education and drive people to closed won?
I think it's really important, and I know your podcast is really targeted to sales. So we really need to be working better to integrate sales into the content development process. I would ask the reps, what are you showing your customers? So sorry, but PowerPoint is not going out of style. Everyone should have a gorgeous PowerPoint deck, and it should be the same. So call me crazy, but all the reps should be using the same deck. And if there's a slide that one rep loves and she created on her own, let's look at that. Let's bring that into the master deck that everyone can use. Let's make sure we all have messaging across the board. Let's make sure that the assets they are actually putting in front of customers, or if there's certain landing pages on the website, that if somebody says, hey, can you send me more info about XYZ, they're always directing them to those same pages or the 3 top case studies that they say customers go crazy for. We need to be really interviewing the field in order to determine what assets need to go into that kit. And give me more, right? Give me more of those kind. We want to have those conversations with sales so that we know what to produce. But I would say, you need to have a beautiful website. You need to have some case studies. You need to have really solid messaging that's in the language you want to use with customers, probably some thought leadership pieces. An infographic is nice to have, a few demo videos. I mean, I could go on and on.
And I bet you could even help with people. Well, I know if people have some challenges in that space, but changing gears back to you personally for a second. As the CEO, you're responsible for driving the business and actually selling. Give me an example of a great sales or revenue leader you've worked for, seen in action, somebody that stands out to you as great and taught you something that you take with you as part of running the Content Bureau day to day.
I think the best salespeople that I've come across are so in love with the products that they are selling. And you can just tell, you get them on the phone and they light up. And some of the best ones we've worked with have actually been users of the product. So they may have been a customer that has then been hired by the tech company to be the chief evangelist. You can just tell they love it. They absolutely love people. They love helping people solve their problems, and they love the technology that they're selling. And I think that would be for me, above all else, the criteria of the most fabulous salespeople that we work with. And, it's really nice if a salesperson wants to help out the marketing team by sharing their expertise in front of customers, because that just helps us produce better content for that company.
That's great. Well, you're in the middle of something that I think all of us can get better at in terms of developing great content. If listeners want to get more of your insight or work with the Content Bureau or find out what good looks like and get into the details, how should they contact us?
Thank you so much for asking. They can just go to our website, contentbureau.com. Fantastic.
Thank you, Stacy. I really appreciate your time today.
I loved being here. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
You've been listening to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio, brought to you by Altify, right here on the Funnel Radio Network for at-work listeners like you.